LEGO has been under a lot of fire recently, specifically with the reveal of the brand new UCS Death Star, that in many ways doesn't have the quality that some people expected, especially with the minifigures. In this video, I want to look at the raging problem of dual molded legs in LEGO Star Wars, and mainly the lack thereof in new and expensive sets. Now, of course, let's look at the dual molded leg piece first. This is something that is becoming increasingly popular and used in many different LEGO sets of different themes. It is now mainly seen in CMF sets, as these minifigures tend to be the most detailed and highest quality figures LEGO produces right now. Despite the overabundant use of dual molded pieces and all-around printing, these CMF minifigures are sold for only $5. Now, keep that one in mind. Now let's look at LEGO Star Wars and what's going on here. This is easily the most popular and best-selling LEGO theme among both children and adults, and probably has one of the biggest fan bases within the LEGO community. As Star Wars is such a massive franchise and perfect for merchandising, and LEGO is one of the biggest toy companies in the world, it is natural that the two will combine very well, with growing success every year as outputs of sets increase all the time. However, the same cannot be said for the quality of these LEGO sets and minifigures, as sometimes, especially for the price being paid, it doesn't feel good enough. Now let's look at some recent examples where LEGO did go the extra mile and include some dual molded legs in recent LEGO sets. And in the first example, I want to talk about the UCS Venator released in 2023. This is a perfect example of a set that definitely needed this kind of treatment, as it is a very expensive set retailing at $650 and marketed as a set for adult collectors, better than your typical playset. That said, you want the best on every level, build and minifigures, and in this set, we did get to see that with Admiral Yularen. This minifigure has a very good design and includes dual molded legs to depict the boots seen on these types of uniformed characters, and he is exclusive to this set. Another example is Luke's Landspeeder released in 2022, which is another large-scale UCS set, this time retailing for $240. Included here we got to see two minifigures, and the standout is of course C-3PO, which is seen with a dual molded leg piece depicting the silver leg seen on screen. Additionally, this minifigure has printing on the side of the leg, which is another thing that isn't seen as often in LEGO minifigures, especially not for Star Wars. One of my favorite examples is seen in the UCS X-Wing, that includes a brand new pilot Luke Skywalker, which has all around the best detail for this kind of minifigure, and of course, some dual molded legs. This minifigure was also made available as a keychain, giving fans the opportunity to get it in a cheaper way, which is great, as this is one of the best minifigures ever made. But before moving on to the bad, I also want to point out that these dual molded legs are not specific to just UCS sets, as last year we actually got to see this on Grand Admiral Thrawn in the duel on Peridia. This is a $50 set based on the Ahsoka TV show, and although the set isn't the greatest, the fact that we got to see this on Thrawn was very good. It was one of the very few times we saw dual molded legs in a standard playset, and overall added so much to this minifigure. We also saw this same treatment with the clone cadets for the gift with purchase this year, where we see a red and black dual molded piece on a minifigure that has arm printing too. This was really nice to see as well, and honestly quite unexpected. That said, I don't think it is completely fair to expect every single minifigure in smaller playsets should get dual molded legs, as even if the character would benefit a lot from this, it is still something that can be seen as a bit more exclusive, and not on the same level as arm printing, which is becoming a lot more mainstream recently. For example, many people argued that the clone pilots in the ARC 170 would have been perfect with leg printing, and sure, I do agree on that, but I don't think it is something as crucial in the set for the price you are paying. Or even Imperial officers released in any non-UCS or 18+ sets are fine without the leg piece, especially if it is an unnamed character. Standout characters like Thrawn, sure, it is a nice gesture, but it shouldn't necessarily be a main focus point in a cheaper set. But what about your more special and expensive sets? Let's look at the Endor Speeder Chase diorama. In my opinion, this is a set that should have gotten that extra treatment of dual molded leg pieces. This is an $80 set marketed once again towards adults, as these diorama sets are basically mini Ultimate Collector sets. We see 3 minifigures in this one, and they are all generally good. But one thing stands out, and that is the leg piece used on Luke Skywalker. This is clearly an outfit in need of those dual molded legs, as Luke has rather evident black boots on Endor. Additionally, LEGO insinuated this with the black printing on the leg, but it cuts off near the middle, which just looks very bad. Another set is the latest UCS AT-ST, which was also under a bit of fire when it just released because of the minifigure included. This is one that so many people assumed would have some dual molded legs, as we got to see this treatment on General Veers in the UCS AT-80, but rather we got a plain printed grey legs on this character. I think the fact that we have seen dual molded legs on similar characters in the past just made this feel like even more of a letdown. Another easy example is the UCS Jabba's Sail Barge released last year. This is a $500 UCS set that you would expect would have the best possible quality in its minifigures, but instead we get a rather lackluster selection of characters, and what is most notable is that we do not see the UCS level C-3PO. We should have seen the same minifigure from the Land Speeder in 2022, and even worse is that we saw this in a keychain as well. So the fact that it couldn't have been included in a new $500 set feels absurd. And this trend would continue as well, as in the new Death Star set, the exact same thing has happened. Now, looking at this Death Star, this is the first $1,000 LEGO Star Wars set, and with that price point, people were hoping for the absolute best in this set. From the build to the minifigures, you want what you are paying for, as $1,000 is a lot of money for a single set. However, this set came out to feel very lazy. The build, sure, is controversial in its own ways, but in terms of what you get, let's entertain the idea that the flat disc or diorama approach was a good idea, as it will be easier to display than a sphere at this large size and has so much room for interior detail. However, the minifigures included is quite the issue. We see almost 40 minifigures here, some new, some reused, but one thing stands out: a lack of dual molded pieces on most of the characters, as we only have one, and that's on the Bathtub Trooper. However, on your Imperial officers, we do not see a single use of this piece. This isn't even a new piece either, as we have seen the grey and black, as well as the white and black dual molded pieces in previous sets, and even a $50 playset. So the fact that it isn't included here is quite rough, and the excuse of a limited amount of access to, so to say, new pieces doesn't feel like a good enough excuse. But then of course you have the argument that the minifigures are such a small part of the set, and the one leg piece doesn't matter that much. Or you have the side where LEGO is handing out constraints to what designers can and can't do. Ultimately, what stands out to me as the biggest problem is that LEGO wants the highest profit margin possible with LEGO Star Wars sets. And hear me out on this one. Sure, we see dual molded legs and the highest possible quality on your CMF minifigures, that, as we know, retail at only $5. This is often completely new pieces, new molds, and all around new minifigures, and with such a low retail price, it cannot cost that much to produce. But what happens when LEGO stops doing this for something like CMF, or the other themes that more often see added details like this? Most likely, sales will plummet a bit, as these minifigures are known and notable for their high levels of detail. If this level of quality would go away, people won't be as drawn towards it and sales would not look the way it does right now. However, when it comes to Star Wars, No matter what LEGO does, the reality is that fans will continue buying, and it is very evident that LEGO realized this, as one, quality is dropping in small things such as modern minifigures, and sometimes even the actual build of the set, while the prices of new sets are rising rapidly, higher than other themes. To me, it is clear that LEGO is maximizing any profit they can make out of Star Wars, as fans keep buying, not just one, but several copies of basically every set. So sure, maybe complaining about something so small like dual molded legs is stupid, but it is a small thing that can be done perfectly in other themes, so it is fair to want that same level of quality in LEGO Star Wars, as a massive LEGO Star Wars collector who spends a lot for these new sets. But all the ranting aside, LEGO Star Wars is still on a good track, I'd say. We are still seeing very good sets, and between all the hate, there are objectively really good minifigures being released too, such as the Obi-Wan Kenobi in the V19 torrent. But let me know what you think about all of this down below, and then I will see you all in the next one. God bless you, and cheers.